Very good morning. Myself Dr. Varsha from BAU Ranchi. I am going to start new topic, that is a new phytohormone, that is ethylene. And ethylene is well known for fruit ripening, and that's why it is known as fruit ripening hormone. So during 19th century, coal gas was used for street illumination, and it was observed that the trees which were growing in vicinity of the street lamp defoliated more extensively as compared to other trees. So later it was found that ethylene is the active component of coal gas, and it only is affecting the plant growth and development, that is defoliation of the leaf. Now after that, another scientist known as whose name was H.H. Cousins, he reported that ethylene is natural product of plant tissue, and what he did, Cousins reported that emission from oranges, the oranges were placed along with bananas, unripe bananas, and that those oranges were infected with penicillium, and Cousins reported that emission from oranges caused premature ripening of bananas, and when these gases were allowed to pass through it, since those oranges were infected with penicillium, and we know that penicillium, the fungus penicillium, releases copious amount of ethylene, and because of those ethylene, because of that emission from the oranges or from the penicillium, the unripe bananas got prematurely ripe. So you must have heard a common saying, that is, one bad apple may spoil the whole bunch, but one good apple won't make the rest fresh. This saying is very much suited for this report of Cousins, that some emissions come out from rotten apple or rotten bunch of fruit, which causes the premature ripening of fresh one. Another scientist, R. Gain, identified that ethylene is a natural product of plant metabolism, and because of its dramatic effect on the plant and because of its remarkable physiological significance, it is recognized as hormone. So I would like to tell you that for first initial 25 years, ethylene was not being recognized as hormone because it is gaseous in nature, but after the discovery of gas chromatography, the physiological significance of ethylene was recognized, and it was then identified as important plant hormone. Now coming to the biosynthetic pathway of ethylene, here is the Yang cycle, after the name of the scientist who elucidated this cycle, and his name was Yang, and after his name, this cycle was named Yang cycle. Here we can see that the precursor of ethylene is methionine, and from methionine, S-adenosyl methionine, that is adomate, is synthesized in presence of enzyme adomate synthetase, and from adomate, using the enzyme ACC synthase, ACC, whose full form is 1-aminocyclopropane, 1-carboxylic acid, is synthesized, and from ACC, using the enzyme ACC oxidase, ethylene is produced. So here two important enzymes are there, ACC synthase and ACC oxidase, and these two enzymes are key enzymes for biosynthesis of ethylene in plant tissue. So you must take care of its inhibitor and its promoter. So the inhibitor of ACC synthase are AOA and ABG, while its promoter are fruit ripening, flower senescence, supraoptimal concentration of auxin, wounding, chilling injury, drought stress, and flooding. So I'd like to emphasize over here that all the biotic and abiotic stresses lead to the increased biosynthesis of ethylene in plant, and the inhibitor of this particular step, the inhibitor of this particular enzyme is AOA and ABG. Now coming to inhibitor and promoter of ACC oxidase, the another key enzyme for the biosynthesis of ethylene. So the inhibitor are cobalt ion, anaerobic condition, and temperature beyond 35 degrees centigrade. So I would like to emphasize over here that for the functioning of ACC oxidase or for the conversion of ACC to ethylene, oxygen is required. So this using oxygen, this ACC is converted to ethylene, and during this process carbon dioxide and hydrogen cyanide are also released as byproduct. So here, since oxygen is required for this conversion, So when there will be anaerobic condition, anaerobiosis, then of course ACC oxidase will be inhibited. The activity of this enzyme will be inhibited. So in presence of anaerobic condition and temperature beyond 35 degrees centigrade, or in the presence of cobalt ion, this activity of ACC oxidase will be inhibited and ACC will not be converted to ethylene and it will get accumulated. ACC will get accumulated in the plant tissue. Now this I was explaining one branch of this biosynthetic pathway. Now another branch of this biosynthetic pathway is for the recycling of CH3S group. Now this CH3S group will be regenerated, recycled for regeneration of methionine via the another branch of this biosynthetic pathway. And I would like to tell you that in methionine, the third and the fourth carbon of methionine gets converted into ethylene. The third and the fourth carbon of methionine is used for the biosynthesis of ethylene via this cycle. Now as I was discussing the inhibitors of those enzymes, means the inhibitors of ethylene biosynthesis. So again in this slide I'll discuss the inhibitor of ethylene biosynthesis and inhibitor of ethylene action. There are two types of inhibitor, that is, one is the inhibitor for ethylene biosynthesis, means while it is being biosynthesized in the plant tissue, it is being inhibited by certain inhibitors. While there are certain group of inhibitors which inhibit ethylene action, means the ethylene has already been biosynthesized through Yang cycle and now its action on the tissue is being inhibited. So the example of inhibitor of ethylene action are silver ions. Silver ions are the potent inhibitor, most potent inhibitor of ethylene action, and generally it is available through silver nitrate and silver thiosulfate. Now the next inhibitor of ethylene action is carbon dioxide, means high concentration of carbon dioxide. A high concentration, I mean to say that 5 to 10% of carbon dioxide, and this property of carbon dioxide is utilized or exploited in storage condition for storage of perishable fruit and vegetables. When there will be high concentration of carbon dioxide in storage condition, the action of ethylene will be inhibited and the shelf life of fruits and vegetables will be increased. Next is trans-cyclooctane. Trans-cyclooctane and not its cis isomer. I will emphasize the not its cis isomer is also the inhibitor of ethylene action, because trans-cyclooctane is a strong competitive inhibitor of ethylene for its binding site. Means trans-cyclooctane will compete with ethylene for binding on its receptor, and after binding to its receptor the ethylene action will be inhibited because ethylene will not be able to bind to its receptor. Now the next is MCP, 1-methyl cyclopropane. 1-methyl cyclopropane is also one of the ethylene action inhibitor, and it binds irreversibly with the receptor of ethylene, and because of this reason ethylene will not be able to bind to its receptor and its action will not be exerted. So by this way MCP also plays the role of inhibitor of ethylene action. Now coming to physiological role of ethylene. So first and foremost, for which ethylene is well known, is fruit ripening. The very first physiological response, physiological role of ethylene is fruit ripening. So why fruit ripens? The purpose of fruit ripening is to make it edible, because edible by birds, humans and animals, because we can't eat the raw fruit. After ripening we ingest the food, and the purpose for which the fruit ripens is its seed dispersal. So fruit ripening is very much important physiological response, physiological process, and it is meant for seed dispersal. When the animals or the birds will eat the fruit, they will disperse its seeds for its propagation. So my question is, do all fruits respond towards ethylene for ripening? No. All fruits do not respond towards ethylene for ripening. So there are two categories of fruits depending upon the responsiveness towards ethylene for ripening, and these two are climateric fruits and non-climateric fruits. So here we will discuss climateric fruits and non-climateric fruits in detail. Now coming to climateric fruits, the fruits which ripen in response to ethylene. The fruits which ripen in response to ethylene are known as climateric fruits. Here there is before the ripening phase, there is sudden increase in ethylene production. There is surge of ethylene production in the fruit, and in response to it there is sudden increase in respiratory rise, and this particular respiratory rise, the spike of respiratory rise, is known as climacteric, and on this fruit got the name climacteric fruit. And after this phenomenon there is ripening phase. The ripening is accelerated in this fruit. So the examples are apple, banana, mango, tomato, etc. Now coming to non-climacteric fruit. Here these group of fruits do not respond to ethylene for ripening. Here means this fruit, in this fruit there is no surge of ethylene production before ripening, there is no spike of respiratory rise before ripening. And the example of non-climacteric fruits are citrus, grapes, pineapple and watermelon, etc. Now coming to major difference between climacteric and non-climacteric fruits. What are the major difference between climacteric and non-climacteric fruits? First, what I explained, that the fruits that ripen in response to ethylene exhibit a characteristic respiratory rise before the ripening phase is called climacteric fruits, and the fruits that do not exhibit respiratory rise and surge of ethylene production before ripening are known as non-climacteric fruits. Beside that, such fruits, climacteric fruits show a spike of ethylene production immediately before respiratory rise, whereas the non-climacteric fruits do not show a spike of ethylene production immediately before respiratory rise. When non-climacteric fruits are treated with ethylene, the magnitude of respiratory rise increases as a function of the ethylene concentration. Another difference is, in climacteric fruits, treatment with ethylene induces the fruit to produce additional ethylene. Means if you are providing ethylene to the climacteric fruit, then the action of ethylene will be autocatalytic. Means there will be increased dose of ethylene production in the fruit. It will induce its own biosynthesis, and the concentration or the amount or the quantity of ethylene in the fruit will increase as compared to the dose what you had given. But this is not the case in non-climacteric fruit. In non-climacteric fruit, if you provide exogenous ethylene, then the action of ethylene will not be autocatalytic. Means that dose of ethylene will not induce the fruit to produce additional ethylene. And whatever dose you have provided to the fruit in that response, in that magnitude only, the ripening of fruit will take place. If you will provide 2 ppm ethylene, then the ripening will be that much only. If you will provide 4 ppm of ethylene, then the ripening of the fruit will increase according to the dose, according to the concentration of ethylene provided, and there will be no mechanism of autocatalysis. So these are few basic differences between climacteric fruit and non-climacteric fruit. Now there is a list of examples for climacteric fruit and non-climacteric fruit, like apple, apricot, avocado, banana, berries, fig, guava, kiwi fruit, papaya, peach, pear, plum, sapota, etc. are the example of climacteric fruit. So in layman language, for layman, I would like to explain how can you differentiate on the basis of your observation that these are climacteric fruit and these are non-climacteric fruit. For example, if I give you the example like guava, mango, banana, if you bring guava from market and you keep it in your shelf of kitchen for 2, 3 or 4 days, then you will observe that the guava will start over ripening and smell will come out from it. Means those fruit which ripen, over ripen after 3-4 days of their harvesting, or after you bring it from the market, and if you observe such symptom, then you can say that these are climacteric fruit. But this is not the case in lemon, watermelon, grapes, olive, in which you will not observe that after bringing it from the market it has started over ripening. So if you observe such symptom in fruits, you can say in layman language that these are non-climacteric fruits. But exception is apple. Apple is a climacteric fruit, but you will not observe its over ripening after 3, 4, 5 days of keeping in yourself. So by the observation you can say that this is a non-climacteric fruit, but actually apple is a climacteric fruit. Now, in order to increase the shelf life of fruits, perishable fruits and vegetables, we want to delay the process of ripening. Though ripening is an important physiological process, and it is also important for the fruit for its dispersal of seed, but in order to preserve it for more time, for longer time, we want to delay its ripening. So scientists have attempted to develop certain varieties of tomato, like flavor saver variety, by intervention of biotechnology. So what happens, generally during the biosynthetic pathway, we observed that there are two key enzymes, ACC synthase and ACC oxidase, which is responsible for biosynthesis of ethylene. And beside this, there is another important enzyme, that is polygalactourinose, which leads to breakdown of structural polysaccharide in the wall, in the cell wall of fruit, which lead to the softening of its texture. So means three enzymes are important for ripening process during ripening: polygalactourinase, ACC synthase and ACC oxidase. So we need to inhibit the expression or activity of these three enzymes if we want to increase the shelf life of fruit. So by antisense technology, by preparing the antisense version of sense mRNA for these three enzymes, the scientists attempted to prepare or develop a transgenic tomato whose name was flavor saver. So what they did, in the tomato they incorporated the antisense version of sense mRNA, the antisense mRNA for all these three enzymes, and the quantity of this antisense mRNA was lesser as compared to the sense mRNA. Means few of the antisense mRNA got bind with the sense mRNA, leading to the inhibition of its expression, and few of the sense RNA were free, means they were not bound with the antisense mRNA, and that's why they could express themselves. Means there was synthesis of ACC synthase, there was expression of ACC oxidase, there was expression of polygalactourinase, but in reduced amount as compared to normal tomato. Means ripening will be there because of the expression of these three enzymes, but the ripening process will be delayed as compared to normal, and hence the shelf life of flavor saver variety could be increased. So this was the technology behind, and by this process the production of ethylene or biosynthesis of ethylene was delayed. So this is one of the great achievement in the field of biotechnology or in the field of physiology, you can say. And the another variety which was developed was never ripe tomato. So what is never ripe tomato? Means the tomato will never ripe. Even if the concentration of ethylene in around that tomato is very high, though the tomato will never ripe. So this is a mutant variety of tomato, and it was developed by rendering the receptor of ethylene mutant. Means the receptor of ethylene was turned mutant, and that's why the ethylene could not bind to it, and if the ethylene could not bind to it, it could not exert its action, means it could not ripen the tomato. So the tomato will remain unripe forever and it will not ripe. So that's why it got its name never ripe tomato. Now coming to symptoms of fruit ripening. So as I told that fruit ripens in order to get its dispersal of seed by animals or birds. So it should, in order to get it dispersed, it should become attractive, either in color or in taste or in aroma. So during fruit ripening there are four major changes, either biochemical change or physiological change or morphological change. There are four important changes in fruit during the ripening phase. So these are change in texture, change in color, change in taste and change in aroma. So first coming to the first symptom, that is change in texture. So change in texture means change in the structure and composition of cell wall. Means you would have noticed that the raw fruit or the unripe fruit is hard in texture. You can't properly eat it. But during the ripening phase, there is increased activity of cell wall degrading enzyme, that is cellulase and pectinase. And this cellulase and pectinase lead to the breakdown of cell wall or polysaccharide present in wall, resulting in softening of the fruit. So here in this picture you can see the series of change will take place in this fruit from unripe stage to overripened stage. So the first the fruit is unripe, and then it has started ripening, and now it has started over ripening because of the expression of these two enzymes, cellulase and pectinase. Now the next change is change in color. So the fruit changes its color, either the fruit become red, the fruit become orange, yellow, or likewise. This is because of the conversion of chloroplast into chromoplast. So this transition of chloroplast into chromoplast, chromoplast are the colored plastid, and this chromoplast or the colored plastid impart color to the ripening fruit or ripened fruit. So in different types of fruit there are different types of conversion. Like I would like to give you the example of pear, grapes and olive. So these fruits look green when they are raw, and when they become ripened they look light yellow in color, pale yellow in color. Though they are greenish, but the intensity of green color gets reduced. So this is because of the reason that the chlorophyll pigment which is present when the fruit is raw get degraded, and because of its degradation, because of their disappearance, the underlying carotenoid pigments they get unmasked, and because of the presence of this carotenoid pigment, the fruit like grapes, olive and pear become light yellow in color because of the presence of the expression of or the unmasking of this carotenoid. And the green color, because of the presence of chlorophyll, disappears due to its degradation. Now the next fruit, like example of fruit like tomato and capsicum. In what happens in tomato and capsicum, there is accumulation, biosynthesis and accumulation of large amount of carotenoid and lycopene. In tomato there is lycopene is the dominant pigment over carotenoid, and that's why this lycopene impart bright red color to tomato. Beside this, the bright orange color of oranges is because of the accumulation of pigment beta citroarine. And next type of color change or the transition in color, change in color, is because of the accumulation of pigment anthocyanin in vacuoles. Like if I give the example of apple, there is accumulation of anthocyanin in its vacuole during ripening, and this impart bright red color to the apple fruit. And beside this, anthocyanin also impart blue color to blueberries, and the color of strawberry is also because of the accumulation of anthocyanin in the vacuoles. So all these are important changes because of which the fruit gets its color during ripening phase, and the change in color or the accumulation of pigment give the fruit bright color which attracts the animal or birds. Now after the color, the important change is change in taste. The taste of the fruit also changes from unripe stage to ripened stage. So basically the taste is because of the balance or the ratio between acidity and the sweetness. Means during ripening what will happen, the acidity of the fruit will decrease and the sweetness will increase. But this is not the case in all the fruits, or not the case always. Means for example, if I give the example of lemon, if I give the example of orange, lemon will remain acidic, or there will be acidity in lemon always, even after the lemon has ripened. Means here the ratio of acidity to sweetness is different as compared to apple. Here the acidity will be more and sweetness will be less. Or if I give the example of banana, the acidity will increase during ripening phase and the sweetness will be less. Means the pH will change from 5.4 to 4.5 in case of ripening banana, because here there is degradation of starch to acid, organic acid. So the ratio of acidity and the sweetness decide the taste of the fruit. Beside this, there are certain important organic acid or characteristic organic acid or particular organic acid which impart characteristic taste to the fruit. For example, the malic acid imparts the particular taste to apple. Citric acid imparts characteristic taste to lemon or citrus, and the tartaric acid imparts characteristic taste to grapes. Likewise, beside this, the sweetness of melon. What happens if melon, when the watermelons are ripening, the photosynthesis in their leaves lead to the production of sugar, and this sugar are transported to the fruit when they are still attached to their parent plant. Means this sweetness or accumulation of sugar in melon is not a post-harvest phenomenon, but when the melon is still attached to the parent plant, the sugar has got transported from the leaves to the ripening fruit and it imparts sweetness to the melon. In few of the fruits, there is disappearance of phenolic compound like tannins. Tannins impart bitterness, or in Hindi if I use the word for this bitterness means kasala. So this characteristic bitterness in unripe fruit like guava is because of presence of tannins, and during ripening there is disappearance of these tannins, and when these tannins are disappeared, there is characteristic sweetness in the fruit. So this is all about the change in taste. Now coming to change in aroma. Aroma means smell. So particular fruit has a characteristic smell. If you enter your kitchen or you enter your dining room, you can, by the smell of the fruit, you can identify that guava is placed over here or banana is placed over here, because particular fruit has their characteristic smell. So this smell is because of the presence of volatile compound like organic acid, alcohol, particularly ester, carbonyl compound, lactones, hydrocarbons and terpenoid. And this organic compound, this complex organic compound are synthesized from their precursor like long chain amino acid, leucine, isoleucine and valine, and unsaturated fatty acid like linoleic acid and linolenic acid. So using these compounds as precursor, these complex organic compounds like organic acid, alcohol, ester are synthesized, and these impart characteristic smell to the fruit. We have synthesized artificial ester also for imparting particular aroma, particular smell to the chocolates or ice cream or custard, like that. So I mean to say that the fruit has got its particular aroma or smell because of these esters or these organic compounds. So this was all about the changes which takes place in fruit ripening, or this was all about the first and the foremost physiological response of ethylene, that is fruit ripening. So second physiological role of ethylene is leaf epinasty. So in case of dicots like tomato, what happens under flooded condition or under waterlogged condition, there is anaerobic creation of anaerobic environment around the root. So during this process, in this condition, ACEC is biosynthesized in the root and it is transported to the shoot, transported to the leaves via xylem stream. And after going to the leaf, it gets oxygen over there and ACC get converted into ethylene using the enzyme ACC oxidase. So because of ethylene, because of biosynthesis of ethylene, it induces epinasty in the leaf. Epinasty means because of ethylene there will be differential growth in the petiole, means there will be more growth in the upper side of the petiole and there will be less growth in the lower side of the petiole. So because of this differential growth, the leaves will droop down, and this drooping down of the leaf in response to ethylene is known as epinasty. Now the next important physiological role of ethylene is triple response. Ethylene is well known for its triple response. So what is triple response? Means there will be three important responses in the seedling. In presence of ethylene, these three responses are: first is there will be abnormal vertical growth, means there will be no longer, the seedling will no longer grow in vertical, it will start growing in horizontal. Means the second is there will be stem thickness, means there will be more lateral growth, means the stem of the seedling will increase in thickness, radial growth. And the third one is there will be abnormal horizontal growth, means the seedling will not grow vertically but it will start growing horizontally. So these three are important role induced by ethylene, and these three responses of ethylene is known as triple response. Now the next important role of ethylene is it breaks seed and bud dormancy. So ethylene breaks seed dormancy and initiates seed germination in seeds like cereal. Also in case of groundnut, it increases seed germination by breaking seed dormancy, and it increases bud sprouting in potato tubers. Now the next important physiological role of ethylene is that it promotes elongation growth of submerged aquatic species. In case of submerged aquatic species or in deep water rice, what happens? when there is a flooded condition. I would like to give you the example of flooded condition or deep water rice, which is growing in submerged condition inside the stagnant water. What happens? There is in case of tolerant variety, in case of submergence tolerant variety of rice, or in case of deep water rice, or in case of aquatic species, what happens? There is biosynthesis of ethylene in the plant, and in response to ethylene, the responsiveness of gibberellin increases in the plant. Means whatever gibberellin, there will be no over synthesis of gibberellin, but whatever gibberellin is present in the plant, its responsiveness towards the tissue means the tissue will become more responsive towards the gibberellin, whatever it is present in whatever amount it is present in the plant, and in response to it there will be internodal elongation. Means plant will elongate in height and it will come above the surface of water, means the level of water, level of flooded water, stagnant water, and the plant will come out of it. Beside this, there are dual role of ethylene. One is it will increase the responsiveness of tissue towards gibberellin, and second one is that it will lead to lysis of the cell, and because of the lysis of the cell there will be formation of cavity, there will be formation of parenchyma tissue, and because of the formation of parenchyma tissue the plant will trap oxygen from outside, and there will be supply of oxygen throughout the plant body through these parenchymatous tissue. So by these two mechanisms, by gibberellin, increased responsiveness towards gibberellin, and by the formation of parenchyma tissue, the aquatic species or the deep water rice will survive the stagnant water, or the rice varieties which has got submerged because of flood, they will survive, the plant will survive the flooded condition, and then they can give the optimum yield after the flood has gone. So this is one of the important physiological role of ethylene. Next is ethylene induces flowering in pineapple family. So ethylene synchronizes fruit set because it induces flowering in pineapple, and beside pineapple it also initiates flowering in mango. Next is ethylene induces or initiates some defense response along with jasmonic acid, especially against necrotrophic pathogen, but it has no role against biotrophic pathogens. Next role of ethylene is ethylene regulates changes in abscission layer. So if there is supraoptimal concentration of oxime, then it will lead to the synthesis of ethylene by its own. And if there is senescence condition, means the plant is in its senescence stage, so there will be increased production of or increased biosynthesis of ethylene in the plant, and it will lead to the falling off of the organs like leaf, fruits or flowers. Or what will happen, means ethylene will lead to the loosening of the cell wall because of the expression of enzyme like cellulase and polygalactourinase. Because of these two enzymes, the abscission layer, there will be weakening of the cell wall at abscission layer, and the nutrient, water, food will not be able to move to the organ, and that's why because of the formation of this abscission layer, this abscission zone, the leaf will fall off. So means by this, by triggering or by inducing the expression or biosynthesis of cell wall loosening enzyme, that is cellulase and polygalactourinase, ethylene regulates change in abscission layer. Next physiological role of ethylene is it promotes female flower in cucumber. So you might be recalling that while discussing gibberellin, I had told that gibberellin induces male flower in cucumber, but ethylene promotes female flower in cucumber. This is by causing DNA damage in primordial anther. It inhibits stamen development and it promotes selectively the female flower in cucumber. Now coming to commercial application of ethylene. First is ethylene induces abscission before mechanical harvesting of fruits. So just now I have discussed in previous slide that ethylene induces abscission at abscission layer or at abscission zone by inducing the expression of cell wall loosening enzyme cellulase and polygalactourinase. So what happens if we want to harvest the fruit in orchard? So before exact mechanical harvesting, we spray ethylene in the orchard over the fruits, over the tree, and because of spraying of ethylene, it induces abscission at abscission zone, and after that we shake it with the shaker mechanically, and already because of ethylene the cell has got loosened, the cell has got weak at the abscission zone. The fruit will fall off easily, means you will not have to do much labor in order to harvest the fruit. Just you shake the tree with the help of shaker and the fruit will fall off from the tree. So this is one of the commercial application of ethylene in order to harvest the fruit mechanically. Next commercial application of ethylene is degreening of citrus. So degreening is the process of removing the green coloring or chlorophyll from the skin of citrus fruit. It leads to accumulation of yellow color in the flesh, but it does not affect internal ripening process of the fruit. In order to make the fruit marketable, or in order to increase the market value of the fruit, we remove the green color from the citrus or oranges, and this is done by ethylene. This process is called degreening of fruits or degreening of citrus. Next commercial application of ethylene is ethampone. By using ethampone, this is a ethylene releasing compound. Ethampone we can hasten fruit ripening. Since ethylene is a gaseous hormone, we can't apply it in the field in open because it has high diffusion rate. So we must use any ethylene releasing compound which can be spread over the trees or in open, and after absorbing that compound, for example after absorbing ethampone, the ethylene will be released inside the plant tissue. Ethampone is used and its trade name is ethyl. So we can induce artificial fruit ripening by using ethylene releasing compound. So this is also one of the important commercial application of. Now next commercial application of ethylene is use of inhibitor of ethylene biosynthesis in storage, prevent fruit ripening. So just in previous slide, in the starting slides, I told that we discussed that carbon dioxide is means high concentration of carbon dioxide, 3 to 5% or 5 to 10% can prevent ethylene action, and that's why it is exploited commercially in storage condition for increasing the shelf life of fruits and vegetable, because it lead to the inhibition of ethylene action. So by this we completed the commercial application of ethylene. Thank you.